Good morning, all. So today, we're actually going to use a graphing calculator to help us graph some quadratics. This makes it infinitely more easy to graph these equations. But it's really important that you go to the Google Classroom, click on the classwork button, scroll down to materials for the course, and look at the 2 posts that I have included on downloading and installing a graphing calculator to either your phone or your computer. Now, I want to make it very clear that the graphing calculator that you see on the screen right now is the graphing calculator that is for your PC. I have made this one available. You have to download the zip file, unzip it to your desktop, and then all you have to do is double click on the shortcut that appears, and this graphing calculator will come up, okay? So, without any more ado, let's start this lesson. So, graphing quadratics in a calculator. We can use this calculator to make graphing these lines so much easier. So, we've done this before in the past. All we really have to do is press y equals. After we press y equals, we can put in any equation that we want, like x squared minus 4. And then we can hit graph. And there you can see our line. But what's more important is that we can hit second, and then graph, and we can see a table of values, okay? And this table of values makes it very easy for us to input values into a pre-written table. So, we can also use the calculator to find the roots of a quadratic. So wherever the y equals 0, this is the y column. Do you see the y here up at the top? This would be our y column. Wherever you see the y equal to 0, that means that the number that is x that's paired with it is a root. So here you can see that y equals 0 and x equals 2. So that tells me that x equals 2 is a root of the equation. Up here there's another 0, and paired with that 0 is an x that's negative 2. That negative 2 is another root of the equation. Okay, so without reading this whole page, I just included this page as a reference for you guys to use while you're working to remind you of how to use the calculator. But really what I want to do is look at this page, and I want to graph, I want to graph this equation. So I'm going to go back to my y equals, I'm going to clear out my y1, and I'm going to put this equation into the calculator. So I'm going to press negative, bear with me guys, negative 2. Then I'm going to press the xt theta n button. We have worked with that in the past. That just gives you a random x variable. Then I'm going to hit the squared button, which is right here. I got to keep pressing it for some reason. It's not working. There we go. Plus 2. Now I've put my equation into the calculator. I can hit graph. And it'll graph my line. Now here you can see that I have a upside down parabola. We've been used to working with parabolas that look like bowls. This one looks like a hill or a mountain. Now I can hit second, and then graph to get a table of values. Let me see if I can use my mouse here. Okay. Now, over here, you can see that I have a 3. So wherever in my table of values, I have a positive 3, like right over here. I can write in whatever that value is for y. So for the positive 3, I have a negative 16. So negative 16. For the positive 2, I have a negative 6. For the positive 1, I have a 0. For the 0, I have a positive 2. For the negative 1, I have a 0. For the negative 2, I have a negative 6. And as you can see, the pattern is repeating. It's showing itself. So I know that this one has to be negative 16. So now that I have used the calculator to fill in my table, it's just a matter of graphing the numbers. So as you can see here, 3, negative 16. The negative 16 is too big to put on my table because the y ends at 10. So I'm just going to skip that one. I'm going to say we can't graph it, so let's skip it. But 2, negative 6, I can graph. I'm going to go over 2, and I'm going to go down 6. So I've graphed that one. Then for 1, 0, I'm going to go over 1, and I'm going to stay on the x-axis because the y is 0. Now you can see that because this point is on the x-axis, this point is a root. Moving on, 0, 2 means I'm going to stay right at the origin and move up 2. Negative 1, 0 means I'm going to move to the left and stay right on the x-axis. And look, there's my second root. Negative 2, negative 6 means I'm going to move to the left 2, and then I'm going to move down 6. And again, because negative 3, negative 16 is too big for my graph, I'm just going to skip it. Okay, so now it's a matter of just connecting these lines as you best can to create your parabola. And if I go back and I look at the graph on my graphing calculator, you can see that it looks pretty similar. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the table. There we go. And now I'm going to scroll down and answer some of these questions. So what are the zeros or the roots of this quadratic? Well, I could see inside my graphing calculator table that wherever the y equals 0, there's a root. Okay, and I can even go back over to my table and see wherever the y equals 0, there's a root. So this makes it very simple. All I have to write is x equals this number and x equals that number. So that's what I'm going to write. X equals 1. And just to be doubly sure you understand what I mean, if I look here, this is where x equals 0, right in the middle. And that's not what I want. I want where the line crosses the x-axis, which is at 1. The other one right here is x equals negative 1. And just to be clear, that would be right here. So these are my two zeros or roots. Now, does this quadratic have a maximum or a minimum? Well, because my line starts down here and moves up to the top of a hill, that means that this point is a maximum. It's the highest point that the parabola will ever reach. And that's at y equals 2. If you look, here's where y equals 0. I'm moving up 1, 2. So my line has a maximum at y equals 2. So it's a maximum at y equals 2. That would be the answer to that question. Now the last question. What is the axis of symmetry for this quadratic? Now remember, there's an equation associated with this question, and that equation is x equals negative b over 2a. Please make sure you put this in your notes, write it in your notebook, or if you have access to the packet, please write it in the packet. In this case, my equation is negative 2x squared plus 2. So I'm going to write that down. Negative 2x squared plus 2. And remember, quadratics are in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Well, my a is negative 2. My b doesn't exist. I have no number in front of just a plain old x, right? So b equals 0. And my c would equal positive 2, right? I don't technically need to write that positive. I just need to know that it's positive 2. So now I can just sub these numbers into that equation. So negative b would be x equals negative b is 0. So negative 0 over 2 times my a is negative 2. So x equals negative 0 over 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 0 over anything is just 0. So my axis of symmetry is the line x equals 0. And just to be clear, we're going to graph that line on our coordinate plane. So the line of symmetry is at x equals 0. Well, where does x equal 0? X doesn't equal 0 here. It equals 2. But x equals 0 here. So our line of symmetry has to go through that point, which means that this line here is my axis of symmetry, and that is x equals 0. Okay, guys, so that's it for today. Please try and figure out how to download a graphing calculator either to your phone or to your PC. It will make your life so much easier when filling out these tables, okay? Remember that there will be a bell ringer associated with this assignment as well as a homework assignment. And as always, guys, stay safe.